Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline at ACC Tip-Off is Paul Brazeau. He's the Senior Associate Commissioner, Men's Basketball. Such a fancy title. I call you the basketball guru for the ACC. What's up, Paul?
Joe, good morning. It is still morning, both you guys. Great to be with you today, and great to be knowing that the season is about to tip off in, I guess, 12 days now. So looking forward to it.
What kind of work did you do this off-season? Because I was told the ACC was at a critical mass in need of public relations, in need of a punch-up. So that was your job this summer. How'd you do? What'd you do?
It was critical. We put our feet up most of the days by about 2, relaxed, kick back.
You finally got the Wolfpack playing in Vegas for me, so that was nice.
Wolfpack in Vegas, Wolfpack in San Antonio. We've got people everywhere. So it's but really looking forward to the start next week. And, I think we've got some optimistic teams out there. So throughout,
I mean, I'm being funny, but what were some of your conversations like? Because from the coaches that we've talked to last year, it was like, hey, what are some things that we can do? Because obviously everything with the net gets so baked in early in the season, and it's, maybe some of these best practice ideas that I think we talked about in Greensboro at the ACC tournament, that sometimes you actually get some months and some time to explore some of these ideas. So I'm curious how that kind of went.
And you really look at the margin. You look at those last 4 in, last 4 out, whatever, it goes, because that's where you've got to try to make a little bit of a difference. The 5 that get in traditionally, that get in every year, not the same schools, but your top 5 are likely to get in the tournament. And now you're trying to find ways like how can you get deeper? And it's an interesting dilemma. And I'll give you an example of things that we have talked about and looked at. In our case, because we had a 15-team league, our number 1 team plays someone who finishes in 15th place. It's always going to happen that way. You take another conference, Big 12, for instance, to now, their first place team played a team that only finished 10th. And there's a difference between 10 and 15, and it affects the net. And the net doesn't accommodate all that. The net doesn't accommodate things like home and home in non-conference play. It accommodates neutral sites because it was built to address MTEs and how we could continue to have MTEs, have them count, have them be important.
MTE, you mean the tournament that you can play?
Event, right? Those Hawaii, Bahamas, and then a million others.
We have smart listeners, but maybe sometimes you got to add a little context over there.
Multi-team events. The MTE's multi-team event. But what is sort of spurred now is these neutral site one-off games.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned about that because I don't know that that's great for the long-term health of the game or the enterprise, that we can continue to take quality game, played in a neutral site, hundreds of miles from campus, and keep the appetite of our fans up because we want to give them good games against conference folks. So, and this is, I'm not being critical, but Tennessee and State are going to play this year in San Antonio.
Right.
That'd be a great game at either home building.
A terrific game, right? Yeah. And get more of that. I think the college basketball needs to really look at that. And if it's a function of the net, if the net is rewarding you for playing a neutral site game, win or lose, on a neutral site, because you get dinged less by losing on a neutral site than losing on a, then we got to fix that because it shouldn't be that way. It's not good long term. You take football. How many neutral site football games are there?
At the beginning of the season.
But how many? A half a dozen.
Yeah, just a few.
If that.
And if you want to count, do you count Texas, Oklahoma? Is that neutral site? Not really.
No.
Florida, Georgia? No. But neutral site games in football are very, very few. And we have 12 in the ACC alone coming up this year. 12. So I think those are the types of things that I'm trying to talk with my colleagues and other folks in college basketball about. Like, we got to look at that stuff.
So you mentioned the net. And I guess you're operating on assumptions with the net. Do you know how the net actually works? Are you just extrapolating information from how things have gone up and down based on what teams have done?
Yes.
Have they tweaked the net too? Like, do we know the ins and outs, the mathematics behind it yet?
Yes.
Okay.
The answer to that is yes.
Yes.
Does it make sense is something different.
Totally different. I guess that's a feature or bug comment, right, Joe? Is it a feature or a bug?
It's a feature or bug.
Yeah.
What the net Add to this.
Okay.
And I'm going to use Clemson as an example last year.
I was going to say, let's talk about Clemson and Louisville, man. I really hope there was like a cage involved where people were trying to fight Louisville in the offseason. Like, your offseason stories right now, Brass, kind of suck.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you, man. I need you to spice these things up a little bit. Like, I got to think Brad Brownell was like ready to punch somebody at the coaches meeting.
Yeah.
And not Kevin Keats, because Kevin laid down for him.
No, it's all, you know, Clemson
Is it too early
scheduled
for
right.
you?
Clemson scheduled right had lost some games, and then those teams, they played Loyola of Chicago in one of those neutral site games.
Annually won a competitive national team, yes.
Exactly. Loyola had been in the Final Four not too long ago in San Antonio, and they've been deep into the tournament. So you play Loyola, and then you lose, and then it all goes south because they have such a horrific year by their standards. Same with their game with Cal. They played Cal and struggled. You know, Cal wins 4 games. Excuse me. So there's some bad luck. And once you've made your schedule, as I would talk to the folks on the committee, once you can't apologize for your schedule after it's made if it was made with good intention.
Yeah, of course.
And Clemson's was.
All right, so ACC expansion. We're adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU. The ACC tournament is only announced through this upcoming season, going back to DC.
Love it in DC.
It's a great. I'm a big fan of DC. I'm really
DC is
glad.
my favorite.
Going back to DC is going to be a lot of fun. But I'm guessing when the news came through that these 3 schools are being added, it kind of throws into the mix what you might have been planning to do for the ACC tournament going forward and future sites.
It does add to the mix. We have some commitments with the state of North Carolina that are public.
That's how you got that office, yeah.
You know, and so we have some things to do there. If the tournaments should all be, not all, but for the immediate future, you know, they're East Coast North Carolina based or East Coast based, you've got some challenges schedule wise to make sure that Cal and Stanford, for instance, finish the season in the East, finish the season with a game here because they're going to go from Saturday to the tournament.
Yeah.
You know, in a normal situation. So there's a lot of nuances now that get put into the mix.
Are you going to invite everybody?
I think that's to be determined.
That didn't sound like it from Commissioner Phillips's response.
That sounds like that's a lot. That's a lot to handle.
It's a huge departure, but probably a welcome one.
It's an 18-team bracket, still protecting our top 4 teams by giving them buys to the quarters, and which I think is important. We want to do that. You want to give your best teams over the course of the season a good opportunity in the NCAA tournament. So you still want to protect that. That would require, if it was 18 teams, it would require adding a day on the front end.
Okay.
Which may or may not make sense.
I'll go back to 8.
Yeah, that would be
Or no, give me 9. Give me the invitational.
We have everything is out the window now.
Give me the invitational.
Paul, let's do an in-season tournament.
Okay. Lay out the logistics for me.
I want one. Yeah,
I am wide open.
Do it right after Christmas.
Tell me how we would do it.
Bring back the Big 4 tournament that used to happen over in Greensboro.
We got 14 others, so we got the Big 4.
Get 2 different ones.
You get 2 different ones. You could do, you can't get Madison Square Garden when the Big East tournament is there. But why don't you do an in-season tournament where you put all the old Big East teams together and the old ACC teams together, and you have this like festival of basketball. I mean, look, I'm being somewhat facetious, but also understanding that college basketball has a visibility issue. And I know that the commissioner talked about chasing success versus dollars, but money does matter. And I feel like these are television opportunities for the ACC that you have to think outside the box to get basketball front and center for fans.
Sure.
But it's not my job to put it together. It's your job to put it together. So how do you do that?
These things are all on the wall, on the whiteboard or whatever we have sent up. But there's a lot of things involved. Logistics, taking game. We just talked about taking games off campus, away from your home crowd again. Take it out of your season ticket package. So your fans, your local fans, like, man, I'd really like to see that game. Well, you know what? I got to go to Brooklyn, or I got to go to Chicago, or I got to go to San Francisco to see it.
Right.
We got to balance all that.
Okay.
And then we have these things called exams in December. Okay.
Oh, I always skip those. As you can tell. As you can tell.
But there's a period of time, and it runs, if you take the collective 15, soon to be 18 schools, the collective length of the exam period, since they aren't all the same, it's about 18 days from the first exam at school A to the last
Your
exam.
December schedule's tough, man.
So it's really hard to do that. But listen, I've looked at the NBA in-season tournament that they're going to try this year.
Yeah.
And they've mapped it out. They play, basically, it's World Cup style. Play some pods and then advance the pods. They're going to advance them all to Vegas. Mm-hmm. You know that in advance. You know the hotel situation. You know the plane situation, the travel. It's all laid out in advance. For us to do that, it's doing another tournament. So things to look at, and discuss and see what might be better, if there are some things better out there. But I would still like to get the Tennessee game back in PNC.
No, look, I'm with you on that of getting more of those games at home in front of the crowds, because that's what makes college basketball special. It's those home crowds. It's the vibes, if you will, that come out of that. Paul Brazeau, he is the commissioner for basketball in the ACC. I think that wraps it up, Joe. Do you want to give him some of the care package?
Yeah, you have choices here. First of all, you're getting a T-shirt for sure. Ovies Giglio.
No
5 stars.
No one more lucky here than me today.
Positive vibes.
I appreciate that.
So you've as a conference, you've collectively decided to add teams from Texas and California. Mm-hmm. Have a nice white here from California. Okay. Have a nice red here from California, the green fin. Texas Pete actually from Winston-Salem, but says Texas.
I understand.
It really is a marriage of the new ACC.
It is a marriage of the new ACC. Welch's, I think, is a New York company, but these are grape flavored, grape California.
I got it.
And then Almond Joy, almond. Almonds are definitely a California product. And finally, there's cash on the table because that's how SMU got into the league.
Wow.
So your choices. You have plenty of choices.
What would you like? You want the cash?
You got those Ben Franklins.
Hey man, let's go.
Those
let's go. I like it. Yeah, we got nothing but it's not the Benjamins, baby.
Here comes
it's the
Generals.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't I'll leave it for all the coaches you're going to have first, and what they don't take at the end, I'll be glad. So you don't have to transport it back on your private jet.
Oh no, that's
just someone has to.
You like
back up and
my Sherpa tactics over here.
Yeah. Speaking of the coaches, it's not going to be the same without Jim Boeheim, is it?
I was going to say, your guy's not here.
Yeah, man.
It's amazing when you stop and think about it, because we've all been, you and all of us, we've been working together for a while.
Yeah.
And we had, it wasn't too long ago, we had the 4 Hall of Fame guys in this setting.
Uh-huh.
Remember we're saying, but when Jim and Rick and Coach K and Roy, and it's changed over, and I'm really thrilled for those schools that their alum successor, with Adrian and Hubert and John Shire and Kenny at Louisville. It's kind of a neat thing. We'll see. I hope, we want everybody to be successful.
So this is a quiz I'm going to ask everybody who sits down, all the coaches who sit down today. So you're the first one. Jim Boeheim started as an assistant coach at Syracuse in 1969. Do you know the Billboard Hot 100 year-end #1 song of 1969?
I do not. Surprisingly.
Do you have a guess?
Do you have a guess?
Petulia Clark. I don't know.
Petulia Clark. My dad loves Petulia. Downtown. It was actually...
I want to guess.
You want to guess?
I don't know the answer yet.
Well, let me think. 1969.
1969.
The Mets won.
Yes, they did. So the Jets. It's the last time that either one of them were...
Wait, well, not to give too much away, how old were you in 1969?
I wasn't born.
You weren't born yet? Stop. Come on now. Come on. I was 10 years away from being born.
Stop.
I was a baby.
Yes.
But the music charts were weird, so it wasn't like what you thought it should be.
No, usually it was novelty hits.
I think it's Three Dog Night.
No.
Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
No. The Beatles had been through
surprisingly
the
not.
Rolling Stones.
Is there a Diana Ross
Rolling
love
Stones
ballad?
Honky Tonk Women was #3 on the year-end chart.
Ooh. No Diana Ross power ballad.
No.
Sappy.
So let's get back to. He mentioned Jim Boeheim.
Yes.
So
Weiner,
Syracuse, Orange.
I don't know. Some people
zoned out, Twilight Zone.
Some people might put this on an orange.
Toothpick.
Sunkiss.
No. Put this on an orange. Sugar.
Sugar.
There it is.
Honey, honey.
Sugar, sugar.
Who sang that song?
The Archies.
The Archies.
The Archies.
Miller, back to NC State.
Fifth Dimension, Age of Aquarius was number 2.
How about that?
Let the sun shine in.
How about that?
Paul, we appreciate the time as always.
Enjoyed it, guys. Good to see you.